Okay, so good morning all. So today we'll start with the last point of this particular chapter number 3, that is industrial acts. So before starting this particular new point, just we will revise the things what we have covered in the last lecture, because maybe due to some technical problem yesterday, so I was unable to share my screen properly. So just we will revise the thing. So in the last lecture we have started with the industrial safety. So in that particular concept, or in this particular point, we have discussed about the basic definition of the accidents. So as we know that the accident is one of the term which is to be not defined. It is our requirement the accident should not be happen in the industry. That means without happening that, uh, we have to increase our production rate. But maybe there are so many reasons are there due to which the accidents are to be happening. Maybe some mistakes which are happened from the different types of the workers. Maybe what are the equipments, what are the machines we are using, that machines are not properly maintained. What are the equipments we are using, that equipments are not properly working. So there are so many reasons are there due to which the accidents are happening in the industry. And based on this particular point, we have discussed about the different types of the causes of the accident. Maybe sometimes the workers or the operators are using some of the different types of the shortcuts. Then they are having the overconfidence. That means sometimes the work is not possible by using the single worker, but he is trying to complete that particular works, and due to that overconfidence, again there may be possibility of accidents. Then lack of housekeeping. So much raw material, so much finished goods, if they are presenting near to your workstation, that lack of housekeeping is also affects, or it is one of the important cause related to the happening of that particular accidents. Like that, there are so many reasons are that, and starting your work without getting the information. That means that worker or the operator, he is not having any idea how the work is to be completed, how the operations will be started, how the machine will be started. So he is not having any idea. Then also he is starting the machine and he is doing the operations. But due to not having the proper information, there may be possibility of accidents. Then neglecting the safety precautions. Some workers are not using the helmets, goggles, aprons, then hand gloves. So they are not using the safety precautions, safety devices, means again there may be possibility of accidents. And one of the important cause of that particular accidents happening is the mental distraction. Whenever that operator workers are working on any type of machine, and if he is facing some of their financial problem, if he is facing some of their personal problem at the home, and such types of the things they are coming in his mind, so due to that particular mental distraction, he is unable to give the full concentration on his work. And due to that particular mental distraction also, there may be possibility of accidents. So these are the some major causes due to which the accidents are happening in the industry. Then these are the so many preventions. That preventions also we have discussed in the last lecture, that is proper safety measures, proper selection of the method, safety conscience, then enforcement of the discipline, we have to follow the proper discipline, then incentives, safety committees we have to provide, proper maintenance. Whenever the machines are under the maintenance, whenever the different types of the equipments are under the maintenance, you have to do the maintenance of that particular instruments. Safety trainings, wherever the unskilled operators are available, to all the unskilled operators, first of all we have to conduct the training related to the safety. And once the training is conducted, then only we have to send that particular new operators or unskilled operators to operate that particular machine. Therefore, wherever the accidents are happening, in order to remove that particular accidents, it is necessary, it is compulsory to give some prevention acts. Accidents are happening, no problem, but wherever, in order to remove that particular accidents, we have to provide some preventions. Then we have discussed about the need of the safety. So why that particular safety concept is implemented in the industry? Because what is our requirement? We have to increase the production rate. If the accidents are happening again and again, due to that, what happen? The production cost is increases, production time is increases, and it will be affects on the overall development of your industry or overall development of your organization. Therefore, we have to minimize that particular accidents, means we have to provide all the safety concept, or we have to implement all the safety concepts in your industry. Therefore, your production rate can be increases and your production cost can be decreases. And due to that particular proper safety, whatever the damage of the equipment is taking place, whatever the damage of the different types of the machine tools are taking place, that damage is also going to reduce. Therefore, we have to implement this particular safety concept in the all the types of industry. Then safety measures are very essential. Wherever some rotating components are there which are rotating at the different types of the RPM. So for that particular rotating components, it is necessary or it is compulsory to provide different types of the guards. So when that particular components are rotating and by mistake, if it is to be released, so there should not be any adverse effect on the human body. Therefore, wherever the high rotation components are there, to that particular high rotation components, we have to provide the different types of guards. In addition to that, some heavy duty application machines are there which are operates at very high voltage. Some high voltage equipments are machines are there. For that particular high voltage machines, it is not possible to provide the guards. So at that time, what we have to do? Such types of the heavy duty application machines, high voltage equipment machines, we have to provide at different regions. So we can reduce the possibility of accidents. So if you take the example of pressure vessels, their components, the pressure vessel is very heavy components. So such types of the pressure vessels, heavy components, it can be located at the different regions where there is a less chances that humans or the operators are comes in contact with that particular equipments. Then important thing is that material handling equipments. So we are using the different types of the material handling equipments to transport the raw material from one location to the another location, or to transfer your finished goods from one location to the another location. At that time, we have to define the proper path. So from which direction the material handling equipments are to be coming and from which direction it is to be going. So we have to maintain the proper path. Then defective tools. So maybe for some small operations, we are using the different types of the hammers, we are using the different types of the spanners. If that hammers and the spanners are defective, at that time, that defective components are also creates the problem. That means there may be possibility of accident. Therefore, whenever the defective tools hammers are there, so we have to replace that particular all the defective hammers, spanners, and we can reduce the accidents. And important thing is that whenever your the operations are to be completed, your task is to be completed, the requirement is that we have to switch off your machine. Or if I have to go for the maintenance of that particular machine, or if I have to go for the repairing of that particular machine, we have to switch off your machine first and then we have to go for the maintenance. So these are the safety measures which are essential in the industry. So this is about the industrial safety, in which we have discussed about the definition of accident, their causes, their preventions, what is the important role of the safety. If the safety concept is not implemented, what is happening, and if the safety concepts are implemented, how it is to be happening. So this is the basic requirements related to the industrial safety. Now we'll discuss about the industrial acts. So as we know that there is a international labor organization is there, that is ILO. In short, it is called as a ILO, means International Labor Organization. So this particular industrial sector, it is not present in our India only. Throughout the world, that particular industrial sector is to be present. But maybe the industrial sector is present in the maybe in the USA, it is present in the China, it will be present in the Japan. But whatever the different types of the rules and regulations are there, what are the different types of the rules and regulations are there, that rules and regulations are same for all the industrial sector. Therefore, in order to define that particular all the rules and the regulations, this industrial acts, that concept has to be defined. So in that particular acts, what they have provided, that is they are provided related to the all the safety precautions, which types of the acts are applicable whenever the operators are working in any industry, or the workers are working, supervisors are working in any type of industry, which types of provisions we have to provide to them, what care should be taken, which types of the safety precautions we have to take, that all the concept it is to be added in this particular industrial acts. So this particular industrial acts, it is to be defined in 1948. So whenever the operators workers are working in that particular organization, there should be some standard rules, there should be some standard precautions that we have to implement in that particular industry. So what is the basic definition of that particular industrial acts? That is here I have written. The industrial acts are the laws enacted by the government to provide economic and social justice. So that industrial act, it is provided by the government. So maybe it will be provided by the central government, it will be provided by the state government. But all that particular concept, it is defined as per the International Labor Organization. All these particular acts are to be defined by the International Labor Organization, and it is provided by the respective government in order to provide the economics and the social justice to the workers. So what is meant by the economics? Means the term related to the economy. The term related to the economy and the social justice. In Marathi, we can call it as a samajik nyay. So whenever the operators are working, sometimes what happen, the requirement is that that worker has to work continuously for the 8 hours. But due to some different types of the industry, they are taking that particular number of hours near about more than 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 13 hours, 15 hours, like that. The workers are to be working. That means as per the industrial acts, that workers are doing some extra work. But if they are doing the extra work, some additional charges also we have to provide them. Therefore, in that particular industrial acts, whatever the laws or whatever the principles are defined, in that we are providing some economics and the social justice. Economics means the term is related to the economy, and the social justice means in Marathi we can call it as a samajik nyay. Wherever the operators are working, we have to provide some social justice to all the types of workers, those who are working in the industry. And then next, a provision for equitable distribution of profits and benefits occurring from the industry. So the industries are working, they are producing the different types of the components, different types of the products, and sometimes that particular industries are under the profit. So whatever the profit, whatever the benefit is coming to that particular organization or the industry, that should be distributed to the worker. That means in first in the maybe in the last year, overall in the last year, the overall development of the organization is taking place. Maybe in the current year, again the overall development of the organization is to be increases. So whatever the profit you will get, or whatever the profit that will be get to that particular industry or the organization, that profit can be distributed to the workers. That means every year we have to go for the increment of that particular workers. So like that, all the principles, it has been defined in this particular industrial acts. And then in addition to that particular profit, you have to provide some protection against the harmful effects of their health. So some of the operators are working in very hazardous area, maybe some temperature regions are there, or if you take the example of casting processes, there are some hazardous areas are there in the different types of the industries. So wherever they are working in the hazardous areas, we have to provide some protections against them. Means we have to focus on their health, we have to focus on their safety. Health means whatever the safety precautions are to be required, whatever the safety devices are to be required, so it should be provided from the industry only. Therefore that workers can be worked in the effective manner, and there should not be possibility of accident. Also we have to provide some safeties, means sometimes if the accidents are to be happening, so at that time we have to provide some insurance scheme to that particular operator. When the new workers are joining to that particular industry, we have to provide some insurance from the start. In between, if the accidents are to be happening, if their major injuries are taking place to that particular operator or the workers, the insurance scheme should be available in that particular industry. Therefore that insurance scheme is also added in this particular industrial acts. Therefore from this particular industrial acts, you will get the idea, that is we have to focus on the economics, we have to provide, or we have to focus on the social justice of that particular worker. Whatever the profit you will get, that profit should be distributed to the all the types of workers. In addition to that, whenever the operators or the workers are working at some hazardous areas, at that time we have to provide all the types of safety precautions. We have to focus on their health, all the safety devices we have to provide. Therefore that workers can be worked in the effective manner. And in addition to that, the insurance scheme is also to be provided in this particular industrial acts. Now there are basic 4 principles of the industrial acts. In that, first one is called as a social justice. What is meant by the social justice? In Marathi we can call it as a samajik nyay. So why this particular principle is very important? Because there are so many organizations are there, there are so many industries are there, and whatever the rules are there, that rules should be same. That rule should be same in all the types of industry. But some of the industries are not following that particular rules. That workers are continuously working for the 10 hours, 15 hours, maybe sometimes they are working for the 17, 18 hours. And in some of the industries, as per the standard, the workers are working. Once their 8 hours are over, they can leave. But in some of the industries, that particular schemes are not to be applicable. Therefore, wherever the different types of the industries are there, in each and every industry, the rule should be same. If the worker has to work for the 8 hours only, he has to work for the 8 hours only. Once the 8 hours are to be over, he has to leave that particular industry. But if that worker wants to go for the overtiming, if he has to work for the overtime, he can work. But as per the standard rules, what is the working hours? Near about 8 to 10 years. But in some of the industries, that particular rules are not applicable. The workers are continuously works for the 8 hours, continuously works more than 8 hours, maybe 15 hours, maybe sometimes it is 17 or 18 hours. Means the rules are not same. Therefore, we have to implement the first principle, that is social justice. Then second is called as a social equality. Social equality means we can call it as a samajik samanta. This second principle is also correlated with the first one. Samanta means there are so many rules are there for the different types of the industries. Maybe your positions are starting from the lower to the higher. That means some of the unskilled workers are there, some skilled workers are there, after that some supervisors are there, after that again some engineers are there, and there is a top management. But whenever at the bottom side, whatever the workers are to be working, we have to provide some social equality. So we have to give the common effects, or we have to give the common rules. It should be applicable to all. If the supervisors are working, whatever the rules are applicable for the supervisors, that rule should be applicable to that particular workers also. That rule should be applicable to that particular operator also. There should not be any difference between the rules provided to the supervisors and the rules provided to that particular operator. So common rules, it should be applicable to that particular higher to the lower. Then third principle is called as a national economy. Maybe it is very important. National economy means, economy means, you know about the meaning of the economy in Marathi, it is called as the arthavyavastha. So whenever that particular organization are working, different types of the industries are to be working, we have to focus on the national economy. So many organizations are there, so many industries are there in our world. At the USA, some another organization, so many industries are there. In India, so many industries are there. In China, so many industries are there. But whenever we are thinking about if we are thinking about our nation, so we have to focus on the national economy. What is our requirement? We have to increase our national economy. In Marathi we can call it as a whatever the अर्थव्यवस्था. आपण आपली काय केली पाहिजे? आपली अर्थव्यवस्था काय केली पाहिजे? Increase केली पाहिजे. Therefore, whatever the different types of the, as we know that there are so many Indian people are there. They are working in the USA. They are having the maximum organization. They are having the very big industries in USA. Means they are increasing the economy of that particular USA. But if such types of the facilities, if we provide in the India, so there are some big plants are there. If we have to implement that particular big plants in our nation only, so there may be possibility to increase the national economy. And last principle is called as a international uniformity and the solidarity. So the meaning of that in Marathi we can call it as a antarashtriya ekrupta and ekta. So as the operators, supervisors, they are working in the industry. So through this particular acts, what is our output? We have to get the international uniformity. Ekrupta. In Marathi, we can call it as a ekrupta. So the different types of the operators are working, different types of the laborers are working, different types of the supervisors are there, different types of the industries are there. But through this particular principle, what is our requirement? We have to achieve the international uniformity. There should be proper uniformity in all the types of workers. So many industries are there. In that particular industry, so many workers are to be there. But what is our output? There should be the overall development of that particular organization. In addition to that, the overall development of that particular worker is also taking place. Sometimes what happens? Overall development of the industry is taking place. Overall development of that particular organization is taking place. But what about that particular workers? It should not be taking place. We are not giving the proper incentive schemes. We are not giving proper salary to them. Means the overall development of that particular worker, operator, supervisor is not taking place. Therefore, we have to focus on the overall development of the organization, as well as we have to focus on that particular overall development of the operators and the workers. If we will focus on that, then and then only it is possible to achieve the last principle, that is international uniformity. So these are the 4 basic principles which are considered in the industrial acts. All the 4 principles are related to the overall development of your organization, overall development of your industry, and in addition to that, here we have to focus on your operators, workers, supervisors, and the engineers. So these are the fourth principles we are going to study in this particular industrial acts. And now this industrial acts, it is defined in 1948. So 23rd September 1948, on this particular date, this particular industrial acts is to be defined, and then afterwards it is to be modified in 1949. 1st April 1949, some modifications are to be taking place, and afterwards again, as per the requirements of that particular industry, or as per the ILO, International Labour Organization, again there are so many modifications are taking place in 1950, then in 1951, then in 1954, then in 1976. There are modifications are to be taking place. That means that industrial acts, firstly it is defined in 1948, and afterwards, as per the requirements of that particular labors, or as per the requirements of the organization, it is to be defined, and in 1976 it is to be finalized. So what that particular industrial acts represents, here you can see this particular, all the industrial acts are applicable to any factory in India that employs 10 or more than 10 workers. In any industry, if 10 employees or more than 10 employees are working to that particular industry, this particular industrial acts are applicable. In any industry in India, if number of employees are 10 or more than 10, for that particular industry, this particular industrial act applicable. Okay, then what is the objective? The first objective here it is defined, that is to provide protection against the industrial hazard and ensure safe and better working conditions. So what is the first objective of this particular industrial act? To provide the protection against the industrial hazard. So as I have told, there are so many different types of the regions, so many compartments are there which are very hazardous to that particular operator. If you take the example of the casting process, if you take the example of some heavy duty machines like punching machine, hammering machines are there, these are the hazardous to the human bodies. So in such conditions, so we have to provide some safe and better working conditions to that particular operator, and rules related to that, it is provided in this particular factory act, or it is provided in this particular industry act. Then second objective is that regulate and maintain various safety, health, welfare activities in the factory. So sometimes what happening, all the safety precautions are provided, all the types of devices are provided, all the rules are available, but that rules and the safety precautions, it should not be maintained by that particular operator. Maybe some safety devices are provided, but that safety devices are not wear by that particular, or that particular operators or workers are not using that particular safety devices. He is not using the goggles, headphones, helmets, aprons. He is not wearing the hand gloves. Means they are not maintaining it. So the provision is also provided in such way that we have to provide the safety committee. Maybe you can call it as a safety committee. So we have to provide the safety committee in each type of industry, and we have to focus on that particular workers, whether they are using the safety devices or not, or whether they are following the different types of disciplines or not. So for that purpose, we have to regulate and maintain the various types of safety, health and welfare activities in that particular industry. And last is called as a regulate and maintain the working hours, rest hours of the worker. We have to maintain or regulate the working hours. So as per the International Labour Organization, for how much amount of hours that worker has to work, so he has to work for in between 8 to 10 hours. Once the 8 to 10 hours work is over, that worker can leave. Maybe the second shift is to be started. Therefore, in that particular ILO, as per the International Labour Organization, or in case of this particular industrial acts, the working hours, it also plays very important role. So that worker has to work in between 8 to 10 hours. Rest hours, so in between that particular 8 to 10 hours, some break should be provided. For the lunch break, some short break should be also provided. So that provision is also made. And employment of the children and the women. So nowadays in so many industries, some small children are working, some women are to be working, but as per the industrial acts, or as per the ILO, International Labour Organization, there should not be any children, it should be working. There should not be any woman, he has or she has to work in that particular industry. If they are working, if the children are working, If the women are working, the separate provisions, separate rules should be provided to them. Some small duty applications work, it should be assigned to that particular woman, because if you visited to the any type of industry, some of the women are working, but whatever the task is assigned to that particular woman, very simple task is assigned, maybe packing of that particular instruments, or packing of that particular product. Some small works are to be assigned to that particular woman. And in addition to that, annual leave and the wages. Annual leave means if the worker or the operator has to take the leave, the provision of that particular leave is also provided in under that particular industrial act. Wages means in Marathi we can call it as a vetan. So whenever the operators are working for the overtime, for that particular extra work, we have to provide the extra charges. In addition to the salary, if that particular operator is doing the extra or overtime work, so at that time that additional wages also we have to provide. So these are the basic three objectives which are to be implemented or which will be carried out under the factory or the industrial acts. So all the three objectives are related to the, all the factory acts are related to the workers only. So we have to give the maximum focus on the workers only. If your workers, operators, supervisors, if they are working in the effective manner, then and then only your overall development is to be taking place. But if they have to work in the effective manner, we have to provide all the types of safety precautions. We have to provide all the types of facility to all the types of workers. Therefore, these are the provisions which are made under the industrial acts. Then Industrial Factories Act 1948, under that which types of the provisions are made under that particular industrial act, which types of the facilities are to be provided. And that first one is called as the health. We have to focus on the health of the that particular operator, because as we know that there are so many hazardous areas are there where the operators are working. Maximum times in that particular hazardous areas, possibility of accidents are happening. At that time, we have to provide some health related issues. Then second is called as a safety. It is very important. Safety devices we have to provide. So wherever it is necessary, we have to provide some safety rules. So some hazardous operations are there, some hazardous machines are there near to that particular machine, near to that particular region. We have to provide some safety precautions, or we have to provide some safety rules, so that particular worker can read that particular safety rules and accordingly he is going to start that particular work. That means health related issues, safety related issues. Then welfare. What is meant by the welfare? What is meant by the welfare? The Marathi meaning of that particular welfare we can call it as a kalyan. So whenever the operators are working, that management has to think about the welfare of that particular operator. There should be the overall development of that particular operator, not only to take the work from that particular operator. Sometimes in the industry, the operator is continuously working, but management is not thinking about his work. So along with the overall development of that particular organization, the overall development of that particular operator is also taking place. The related welfare also, it will be considered under the industrial act. Then fourth one is called as a working hours for the adults. Adults means proud vyakti. Some of the aged persons are there, they are also working in that particular industry, and at that time to that particular adults or the aged persons, we have to give the separate provisions. So maybe for that particular such types of the aged peoples, we have to reduce the number of hours. Maybe he can work for 7 hours, so we can provide only 7 hours. But in such condition, if we are assigning the maximum number of hours to that particular persons, so at that time it should not be considered under this particular industrial act. Therefore, working hours maybe for the adults, for the children, for the women, or for the all types of workers, that working hours, it is also considered under the industrial acts. Then employment of the young person. Employment of the young person. So employment of the young person means whatever the number of employments are working in that particular industry every year, if it is required, we can go for the employment of the young persons. So continuously the new persons are coming in the industry, they are joining, some another engineers are joining, then again some skilled persons are joining. So employment of the young person is also going to taking place under this particular industrial acts. Then employments of the woman. Employment of the woman is also taking place, no problem, but we have to provide or we have to assign some simple tasks to them. If that women are working at some heavy duty application, it should not be accepted under the industrial acts. Therefore, we have to assign the simple task related to the packaging, related to the, if we have to give the name to any type of product. So such type of the simple task, it should be assigned to that particular woman. Then leave with the wages. If the person has some emergency work at his home, or if he has to take the leave, the provision of related to the leave along with wages. That means without pay. If he has to take the leave should be sanctioned with pay. So such types of the provisions are also provided under this particular industrial acts, and some special provisions under this: dangerous operations, accidents, diseases, penalties, and the procedures. So as the special provisions are there, maybe some dangerous operations are there, and in that particular dangerous operations, again and again, if the accidents are happening, in such conditions we have to think about that, how that particular accidents will be removed. If the accidents are happening, how to overcome that particular accidents, or how safety precautions should be provided. That is, there should not be any adverse effect of that particular accidents on that particular operator, or on that particular worker. So these are the different types of the provisions which are made under the industrial acts. All these particular 8 points are related to only operator, workers, supervisors. Those who are working in the industry. So these are the different types of the concepts, or these are the different types of the provisions which are made under the industrial acts. And nowadays, it is all these particular acts, it is to be implemented in the industry. So this is related to the workers, operators. Then specially health provisions are also provided. Here the health provision is one of the part of that particular industrial acts, but in addition to that, separate health provisions are also made. So in that, which points are considered? Cleanliness. Sometimes in the industry, the cleanliness are not there. Some hazardous chemicals are there which are working. Maybe some high temperature oils are there which are using for different types of the applications, different types of the operations or the applications. At that time, the proper cleanliness we have to maintain in the industry. If the cleanliness is not possible at that time, also there may be possibility of some accidents. So the proper cleanliness we have to maintain under the health provision. Then disposal of waste. So whatever the waste coming out from the particular industry, the disposal of that particular waste, it should be taking place far away from that particular industry. If the disposal is taking place at that particular region only, at that particular department only, also it will be effects on that particular performance. Maybe some different types of the smells, odors, smokes are to be generated, and it will be effects on the health of that particular operator. Therefore, disposal of waste. Then ventilation and the temperature. Proper ventilation should be provided. Wherever the windows are required, wherever the doors are required, we have to provide them. We have to provide it. In addition to that, we have to maintain the proper temperature. Wherever it is required to provide some exhaust fan, we have to provide that particular exhaust fan for the ventilation purpose. Sometimes the temperature is increases, sometimes temperature is decreases. Due to that increase in temperature and decrease in temperature continuously, it is not possible to work in the effective manner. If the temperature increases more than 37, 38, at that time the temperature is very more, or it should not be sustained by that particular human body. So the provision is made, that is to decrease that particular temperature. So the ventilation and temperature, it also plays very important under the health organization. Then dusts and the fumes. So many operations are there from which the dusts are to be generated, fumes are to be generated. But what is our requirement? That dust, fumes, we have to send it to the environment. So the proper provision should be made in order to send that particular dust and the fumes. Then artificial humidification, overcrowding, lighting, drinking water, latrines, and the urinals. So all these particular provisions which are made under the health provision only. That means near about this particular 9 points are there, that all the 9 points are correlated with the operator, workers, or supervisors only, those who are working in that particular industry. So these 9 points are related to the health only. What care should be taken? And all these particular provisions are made under the industrial acts. So wherever the cleanliness is not there, we have to provide, or we have to maintain the proper cleanliness, proper disposal of waste is taking place. Wherever the drinking water is required, we have to provide the drinking water to them. Wherever the proper lighting is required, high intensity light is required, which type of light is required, how many types of bulbs are required. So all that particular acts, it is to be made under this particular industrial acts, and it is necessary to all the types of industry. They have to implement all that particular provisions, or they have to provide all such types of the provisions to that particular industry. So these are the different types of the provisions. Whatever the first 8 points we have discussed, that 8 points are made under the industrial acts that we have to implement. And under that, the health provision, it is very important, because if the workers, operators, supervisors, if they are works in the effective manner, or if they are works in the industry without any fatigue, without any stress, then and then there may be possibility of overall development. If the operator workers, they are not working in the effective manner, their efficiency is continuously decreases, and due to which your production cost is increases, your production time is increases, due to which the productivity goes on decreasing. Therefore, especially the health provisions are also made under the industrial acts. Then some safety provisions are also provided. Similar to that particular health provision, some safety provisions are also taking place. That is encasing and the finching of the machine. So what is meant by the encasing in Marathi? Encasing means some hazardous operations are there, due to which that operator is sometimes under fatigue. So he is working on any type of machine, and again he is under the stress, he is under the pressing. That means that particular machine or that particular equipment is not properly suitable to that particular operator. So wherever some rotating components are there, wherever some heavy duty machines are there, heavy duty applications are there, to that particular machines we have to provide some guards. Then next is called as a work or near machinery in the motion. So wherever the machines are under the motion, wherever the components are rotating at very high speed RPM, or if we are doing your work near to the such types of the machine, heavy duty machines, at that time, what is the requirement? We have to use some safety devices. Whenever we are working on such near to the such types of the machines, we have to wear the different types of the safety devices. We have to follow all the types of the rules which is to be given by that particular industry. Then employment of the young person on the dangerous machine. Some young persons are there, they are unable to handle that particular machine, and then also that young persons are handling that particular machine. In such conditions, again, there may be possibility of accidents. So wherever the skilled operators are required, you have to provide all those particular skilled operators to handle that particular machine. If the new persons are coming without any training, without any safety precautions, without understand anything, if he is directly starting that particular machines, it will create the problem. Then hoist and the lifts. So whatever the lifts we are using to transport the material from bottom side to the top side, so different types of the hoist lifts we are using. Some lifting machines are there, chains are there, ropes are there, lifting tackles are there, some pressure vessel plants are to be there, then floors, stairs, pits, some opening in the floors, excessive weights are there, protection of the eyes we have to taking place, precautions against the dangerous fumes, precautions in case of a fire. So these are the different types of the 12 points which are considered under the safety precautions. So there are so many regions are there. These are the different types of the regions where your operators are working. So from 1 to 12, these are the different types of the regions where the workers, operators are to be working. But whenever they are to be working, some safety provisions are also made. So whatever the provisions we have discussed in the previous figure or in the previous slide, these are related to the health, in which we are thinking about the health related to the human body. Here, these are the safety provisions which are to be made to the all the types of workers. Some workers are working on some hazardous machine. Some workers are working at some temperature region. Some workers are working in some fire related applications. Some workers are continuously working near to the hazardous machines. Some workers are handling some excessive works. So there are so many different types of the regions are there. In that particular different regions, the workers and the operators are to be working as they are working. But here we have to provide some safety provisions, and all these particular safety provisions are made under the industrial acts. It is necessary or it is compulsory to provide this particular safety provisions to the all the types of workers, because it is made in 1948. It is made in 1948 under the Industrial Factory Acts. It is necessary, it is compulsory to provide all these particular rules and regulations, or we have to provide all that particular facilities to the all the types of workers. So these are the safety provisions which are made under the industrial acts. Then based on the working hours, the separate provision is also made. So hours of the work for the adults, 48 hours in 1 week. In 1 week, how much amount of hour that worker has to work? So near about 40 hours in week, means 9 hours in a day. 9 hours in a day and more than 5.5 hours rest. So in that particular, if any operator, if he is continuously working for 1 week, so their total working hours should be 48 hours in 1 week, means in 1 day he has to work for the 9 hours, and in that we have to provide near about 5 hours rest. Maybe you are taking the short break, you are taking the lunch break. So like that, we have to provide some 5 hours rest to that particular worker. Then holidays, Sunday. Now it will be depends on that particular industry, but we have to provide some weekly off. Some of the industry they are giving the weekly off or holidays on the Sunday. Some of the industries they are giving the weekly off on Wednesday, Thursday, as per his requirement. But there should be one provision, that is every week there should be one holiday. That means, but if here they have given the example of Sunday, on Sunday there will be some holiday should be provided, or any day of the week. Some industries provide the holiday on Sunday, some industries provide the holiday on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as per their requirement. But it is necessary or it is compulsory in 1 week, one holiday should be there. And compensatory holiday. This is very important. Compensatory holiday. So wherever it is to be required, if he is working for extra 1 hour, or he is working for extra working hour, if any operator, if he is working for extra, that means in 1 week he has not taken any holiday, but he can take the compensatory off, or you can take some extra holidays as per the rules. Then extra wages for the overtime. Extra wages for the overtime. Some workers they are working for the 9 hours in 1 day, but some workers they are doing the overtime work. Once their 9 hours are over, extra 2 hours, 3 hours they are working in that particular industry. But whenever they are working for the extra work, for that particular extra work, we have to provide the additional payment. We have to provide, or that particular industry has to provide the additional payment to that particular worker. Therefore, this provision is also made, that is extra wages to the overtiming. And many times that particular provisions are also available in the various types of the industry. We can work for the 9 hours, no problem. But if we are working every day extra 2 to 3 hours, that the additional wages or the additional payment of that particular extra 2 hours and the 3 hours, it should be provided by that particular industry. And nowadays in each and every type of industry, the payment or the amount of extra work, it is also to be provided. So restriction on the double employment, it should be avoided in the industry. Employment of the woman and employment of the young person. Employment of the woman is also taking place, no problem, as per the requirement. Whatever the task we are assigning that particular woman or the young person, it should be very less. So wherever the packaging is required, wherever some naming is required, for that simple task we have to assign to that particular woman or the young person. So related to the working hours also, the provision is made under the Industrial Act in 1948. So from that, what we have understood, whenever the operators are working in any industry, in 1 day he has to work for the 9 hours, and in 1 week the total working hours should be 48 hours. And in that we have to provide near about 5 hours rest. Maybe that rest includes some break for taking the breakfast, some break for taking the water, some break for taking the lunch, some break for taking the dinner, because sometimes the industries are working in the shift. So at the night we have to take the dinner also. So like that, total 5 hours are provided for the rest. In addition to that, some weekly off should be provided. Some industries are taking the weekly off on the Sunday, but some industries are not taking on the Sunday. But in 1 week, on any day, the weekly off should be provided. And another important thing is that extra wages for the overtime. If we are doing the work for the overtime, extra work we are doing, rather than 9 hours for that particular extra work. Some additional amount it should be paid from the industry side. And nowadays this is also implemented in the industry. Then employment of woman, young person, it is also there. But as per the requirement, some simple work it should be assigned to that particular woman or that particular young person. So this is about the working hours. The special act, working hours related to act, it is also made under the industrial acts. And the important thing is related to the employees state insurance under the 1948. So as some workers are working at the different types of the areas, and if the accidents are happening and if the major injuries are taking place to that particular worker, so at that time the insurance should be provided from that particular worker. So whatever the amount is required in the hospitals, that amount it should be paid from that particular industry under the insurance. Therefore, whenever the new persons are joining that particular industries, we have to provide the insurance scheme. We can take some amount from his salary related to the insurance, and whenever that particular person facing some problems related to some sickness, related to some maternity, related to some major injuries, so at that time under that particular insurance, that industry can provide all the charges to that particular hospital under the insurance. As we know that there are so many examples are there under the insurance. That is, health insurance is there, then vehicle insurance is there. So many insurance facilities are there nowadays. It is available. So we can taking the insurance of our vehicle also. If the major accident is happening to our two-wheeler vehicle or our four-wheeler vehicle, so under the insurance, that company can repair it, and that company itself provides, or that particular insurance facility it should provides that particular total amount to that particular industry. Similarly, such types of the insurance facilities should be available, or it is to be available in the various types of the big industries, where if there is a major injuries, there is a major sickness, there is a requirement of the maternity, at that time we have to provide that total amount to that particular operator under the insurance scheme. Then under which we can take the benefits. So sickness benefit, maternity benefits, disability benefits, some another medical benefits are there, dependent benefits are there, some furnal benefits are also there. So under this particular insurance scheme, various types of the provisions are to be provided. So as we know that we are taking our health insurance also, there are some standard provisions under the health insurance. If there is a death of any operator, so separate insurance scheme is to be available. If there is a major injuries to that particular operator, separate scheme is to be provided. That means under the insurance there are so many different types of the sub points are to be there, that all the benefits it should be provided to that particular worker. Therefore, in 1948, whenever that particular industrial acts or their rules are to be defined, that employee state insurance, it is also added in that particular 1948 industrial acts. And according to this, now in each and every type of industry, whenever we are visiting to the any type of industry, or when you are joining the new industry after your education, from your salary that industry is taking the some amount as an insurance. And whenever we or you are facing some any major problem, or if we are facing some major injuries, so under that particular insurance scheme, your total cost or your total amount it should be paid to that particular hospital from that particular insurance side only. So this is called as a employees state insurance, which is made under the Industrial Act in 1948. And again here, the Minimum Wages Act, in Marathi we can call it as a Minimum Wages Act means Kiman Vetan Kaida. In Marathi we can call it as a Kiman Vetan Kaida. That is Minimum Wage Act. It is also made in 1948, and again it is revised in 1956 and 1957. But it is having some 4 major advantages or the objectives. The first one is to attain the welfare, minimum wage and unorganized sector. To attain the welfare means whatever the operators are working, welfare means, or to attain the welfare means kalyan prapt karne. In Marathi we can call it as a welfare means it is related to the overall development of that particular operator. Overall development of that particular operator. So if the worker is working for the 9 hours, as per the 9-hour working, we have to provide the payment. But if he is doing some extra work, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours for every day, that additional amount is also paid to that particular worker, and that act is made under this particular minimum wage act. Then second is called as a to prevent exploitation and secure a wage according to the value work done corresponding to the productive capacity of that particular worker. So what it tells, some operators are working in the effective manner, some workers are not working in the effective manner. But then also, those who are not working in the effective manner, then also we are providing some extra payment, or we are giving some extra payment, and every year we are giving the increment to them. But those who are working in the effective manner, honestly they are working in the effective manner, but that particular supervisors or the management are not looking towards such types of the workers. Such types of the situation, it should not be happening in that particular industry. If your worker is works in the effective manner, in efficient manner, if he is very honestly working at that time as per his nature, we have to give the increment every day. So there should not be any partiality in the industry that some workers are not working, but then also as he is a relative of the supervisor, as he is a relative of that particular management person, so we have to give some extra amount to them. It should not be happen in that particular industry. So those workers, those who are working in the effective manner, they are very honestly, we have to give some additional wages to them. We have to give some promotions also. If any worker is continuously working for 10 to 15 years in your organization, and nowadays also he is also working as a worker only, but we have to provide some promotional schemes to them, so again he can work in the effective manner. So that provisions is also taking place in this particular minimum wage act. Third one is called as to protect the worker, those who are unorganized and cannot raise the wage by the collective bargaining. That's there should not be any partiality. So the persons, the workers, those who are unorganized, some of the persons are there, so they are unorganized, they are unable to work in any types of industry, or due to some bargaining, or due to some internal matters in that particular industry, that is matters between the managements and the supervisors. Some supervisors are directly telling to the workers, from next to you don't come, your performance is not that much good. So such types of the partiality, it should not be taking place in that particular industry. So this is the basic requirement, and related to that particular rules, it is also provided under this particular minimum wage act. And last important objective is that to ensure the industrial peace in the country. What is our requirement? Industrial peace. There should be, all the conditions should be satisfied. The operators, those who are working, they are also satisfied with this particular work. The supervisors, those who are working, they are also satisfied with this particular work. And management is also satisfied about their workers and about this particular supervisors. Therefore, to ensure the industrial peace in the industry, if that organizations are working in the effective manner. Why? Because all the workers, operators, they are working in the effective manner with the high efficiency. Therefore, the overall development of that particular organization and industry is taking place. If the overall development is taking place, maybe we can say that there should be the overall development of our country. So these are the different types of the minimum wage acts which are also provided under this particular industrial acts. And with this is related to the industrial acts. So in that particular industrial acts, what we have discussed, so different types of the provisions, some health provisions are there, some safety provisions are there, how much amount of working hours it should be assigned to that particular workers, what is the minimum wage act, which types of the insurance facilities we have to provide under this particular industrial acts. All the provisions are made to all the types of workers, operators, supervisors, those who are working in that particular industry. This particular provisions, this particular industrial acts, it is not defined to the management level person, it is not defined to the different types of the equipments, machine, it is defined to the workers, operators, supervisors, engineers, those who are working in that particular industry. Because if your employee is works in the effective manner, then and then only your overall development will be taking place. If your employees are not working in the effective manner, then there should not be overall development. But sometimes some industries are not following the government rules. They are taking the works of that particular employees for more than 10 hours, 15 hours. They are not providing any safety facility to the workers. They are not providing the insurance facility. They are not giving the proper wages. They are not giving the proper salary to them. So such type of the situations are happening in the industry. Therefore, as per the International Labour Organization, this Industrial Acts is defined in 1948, and afterwards it is to be modified up to the 1976. And this particular Industrial Acts, it is applicable in each and every country. Same rules are applicable for the India. Similar rules are applicable for the USA. Same rules are applicable for the Japan. It should be applicable for the China. Therefore, that particular organization is called as a International Labour Organization. Under this particular act is defined in 1948, under which we have provided all the types of provisions to the all the types of workers, those who are working in that particular industry. So this is about the chapter number 3, which is related to the ergonomics and the industrial safety. So this chapter is totally based on the overall development of that particular operator, or what care should be taken of your operator, or what care should be taken to your employee, or what care should be taken for your machines. So all that particular provisions, all the types of ergonomic concepts, all the types of industrial safety, all the types of industrial acts that we have discussed in this particular chapter number 3, that is ergonomics and the industrial safety. Okay, so with this, the chapter number 3 is finished, and today we'll stop here.